For over 100 years, Catholic and Protestant powers had simmered in a fragile truce. The Reformation had shattered religious unity. Princes rebelled, popes condemned, empires cracked. But in the Holy Roman Empire, a patchwork of kingdoms, free cities, and bishoprics, the fires of war waited in silence. Until one defiant act in Bohemia broke the peace and opened a century's worth of wounds. This is the 30 Years' War, Europe's bloodiest, most devastating religious conflict. A war that began in the name of God and ended with the death of a world. A region with deep Protestant roots, now ruled by a Catholic king, Ferdinand II, a man loyal to Rome and unforgiving in faith. When Protestant nobles demanded religious rights, Ferdinand denied them. On May 23, 1618, a group of Protestant rebels stormed Prague Castle. They threw two of the king's Catholic governors out of a third-story window. Miraculously, both men survived. Catholics called it divine intervention. Protestants called it luck. Historians call it the Defenestration of Prague. This act, dramatic and symbolic, lit the first spark. Ferdinand was furious. Protestants declared open rebellion. The Bohemian Revolt had begun. And the empire was no longer calm. It was a battlefield. Protestant princes of the Holy Roman Empire sided with Bohemia. Catholic forces rallied behind Emperor Ferdinand II. The Protestant Union, the Catholic League. Armies formed, mercenaries recruited. Faith and sword became one. In 1620, the two forces met at the Battle of White Mountain near Prague. It was a disaster for the Protestants. Their army was crushed. Leaders were executed. Protestantism in Bohemia was outlawed. But Ferdinand's victory planted deeper resistance. Protestant fears grew. Catholic power expanded. Other nations began to worry. Denmark, a Lutheran kingdom. Sweden, ruled by a brilliant young warrior king. And eventually, Catholic France, with an agenda of its own. Europe's old order was unraveling, and the war was no longer about just religion. It was about power. As the 1620s gave way to the 1630s, the war turned feral. Soldiers didn't just fight. They looted, raped, and burned. Civilians suffered most. Armies were often unpaid, so they fed off the land, taking food, burning homes, slaughtering livestock. Entire towns were wiped out. Villages vanished. Famine followed. Then plague. In some German regions, up to 60% of the population died. A priest in Saxony wrote, "The fields are dead, the people gone, the church is empty. The devil walks in daylight." Historians today estimate that over 8 million people perished in the war, most of them civilians. This wasn't war. This was apocalypse. In 1630, a new player entered the stage, Gustavus Adolphus, King of Sweden. A devout Lutheran, a military genius, and a hero to Protestants. He invaded Germany with a well-trained modern army and began winning. In 1631, at Breitenfeld, his army crushed the Catholic League. He was hailed as a savior, the Lion of the North. But in 1632, at the Battle of Lutzen, Gustavus was killed. His army won the field, but the Protestant world lost its champion. Sweden continued to fight, but without its charismatic king, the tide was less certain. The war dragged on. Princes changed sides. Alliances crumbled. Europe bled. Then came the greatest twist. In 1635, France, a Catholic nation, declared war on Catholic Habsburg Austria. Why? Power. France, led by Cardinal Richelieu, feared Habsburg domination of Europe. Religion was set aside. Realpolitik ruled. Catholic France now fought alongside Protestant Sweden. against Catholic Austria and Spain. This wasn't just a religious war anymore. It was a continental power struggle. The 30 Years' War had become a pan-European civil war. After decades of war, the continent was exhausted. In 1648, 30 years after the first window was opened in Prague, the war finally ended. The Peace of Westphalia was signed, borders were redrawn, powers shifted, and a new world was born. Key results: states could choose their religion, Catholic, Lutheran, or Calvinist. Sovereignty was established, the foundation of the modern nation-state. The Holy Roman Empire weakened. Switzerland and the Dutch Republic gained full independence. It was the beginning of the end for empires that ruled by divine right. Europe would never be the same. The 30 Years' War began with a prayer. It ended with treaties written in blood. It began as a fight for salvation. It ended as a lesson in survival. It left behind a broken Germany, a weaker church, a hardened Europe, and yet, it also gave birth to the idea of the modern state, secular, sovereign, diplomatic. It forced Europe to choose negotiation over crusade, balance over the sword. But at what cost? 8 million dead, a continent scarred, and a lesson. When faith becomes a weapon, everyone bleeds. This is Dead Kings and Lost Nations, where forgotten wars speak again. Subscribe for more untold histories and stories that shape the world you live in.